Now, I'm not really a sports guy, but I do love me some inspirational movies. And sports stories, they usually deliver that. The new drama Hustle arrived in theaters over the weekend, and it's now coming to the streaming platform. But should it be at the top of your watch list? After discovering a once in a lifetime player with a rocky past abroad, a down on his luck basketball scout takes it upon himself to bring the phenom to the States without his team's approval. Against the odds, they have one final shot to prove they have what it takes to make it in the NBA. So after being snubbed by the Academy Awards for his incredibly dramatic turn in Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler is back with another dramatic turn as Stanley Sugarman, a basketball scout looking for the next great player. I love Sandler in this. I mean, he's heartfelt, down to earth. He's very relatable as an everyman, just fighting to succeed in his job. And the odds are pretty stacked against him when it comes to success, but he still pushes forward, coaching up his prospect. When traveling around the globe looking for potential players, Sugarman stumbles upon this guy who's just amazing at basketball. The dude's totally unknown, off all of the radars, but he's also got a bit of a checkered past that could potentially cause some problems. Real-life NBA player Juancho Hernangomez plays Bo Cruz, and I love the chemistry between him and Sandler. Sugarman and Cruz have this relationship that builds beyond scout and player, or even coach and player, but something definitely more akin to father and son. Now, they don't always see eye to eye, but their dynamic feels genuine as they train and work towards getting Cruz picked up by an NBA team. Now, I don't think you need to be a basketball or even a sports fan to get invested in this story. I mean, it's a fairly simple and even familiar story of an underdog fighting their way to be noticed and then to succeed. I love that amidst all of this, there's also a redemption story that's playing out subtly. It's not overt and it's patiently unveiled, but the redemption is natural, earned, and touching. I mean, it's also meant for more than one person, which I think is even greater. If you've watched my reviews before, you know I really appreciate a story that showcases character growth. And this one plays that out for us in a quiet but effective manner. And I'm not talking about basketball skill. I mean, sure, we see Cruz training and get to watch his prowess improve, but what's most important is if the characters are not static, if they just transition from one frame of mind or behavior maybe into something better or just more. I mean, here we get that, and I think it's fun and inspiring to watch. There's some very creative editing in some of the transitions where Bo will be dribbling the basketball and then he passes it. And then the shot transitions to Bo receiving the pass. It becomes a very high energy type of sequence that maintains excitement during what really could be a run-of-the-mill training montage sequence. I mean, this is then combined with a moving soundtrack to keep the momentum quick and energetic. There are a couple of supporting characters in this that really add some great feeling and emotion to the story. Now, Queen Latifah plays T, Sugarman's wife. She's quietly funny, but also has a very real-feeling relationship with Sandler. Their banter is effective, and despite some of the setbacks in their personal lives, they're not antagonistic to each other, but rather they're ultra-supportive, which I found refreshing. T and Stanley have a daughter played by Jordan Hull, and she is just the right amount of snarky and sweet. And she's exactly the type of daughter you'd expect to see from Stanley and T, so the dynamic really works. Robert Duvall makes a small cameo at the beginning of the film, and it's just so great to see him acting. I mean, I love the relationship that we see between his character and Stanley, as this is one more example of just a father-son relationship that's touching without being schmaltzy. I was excited to see that Ben Foster was in this, but I do really wish that he'd had a larger role. He's great for the little that we get from him, but I really just love his acting, and I wanted more from him. Something that I really appreciate from Sandler is that in this, he's still able to infuse his dry and sarcastic humor within the drama, but he's also reining it in, and he never goes all full Happy Gilmore on us. Now, the humor he brings is in the form of quips and snarky comments, but they completely fit within the context of the scenes, so the dialogue doesn't feel out of place and the humor doesn't feel forced. The movie's almost 2 hours long, and while the majority of the time went by really unnoticed, there was a point towards the final act where I began to notice that there was still a bit left of the runtime. The pacing for the majority of this is great, but it does take a dip at one point where we get into a more dramatic arc. But the momentum also dipped at that moment, making the shift perceptible. But it does pick back up and it finishes strong, so it's just a minor blip on the radar, even though it is noticeable. I think there's a good balance between the basketball that's shown and the drama that plays out. Now, I mean, sure, most of the visuals, they mainly surround the sport, and it'd be almost weird if they didn't. But as somebody who's not really a sports fan, this was highly engaging and entertaining. The cinematography was also great at capturing the skills of the players and then putting us right onto the court so that we could experience the practices and the games in a very immersive way. The camera work also employed some fun shots that would put us into an opponent's perspective, which I found to be really enjoyable. I mean, these weren't overused, which is also great, but they were done enough so they didn't feel like gimmicks or just maybe as a one-off. Now, I know the Academy Awards sometimes have an aversion to a streaming film, but Sandler once again delivers a rock solid performance. And he's just showing that he certainly is capable of carrying a story with weight and depth, and he's not just a one dimensional Arrested Development comedy star who can't move past his roots. I hope he gets noticed for this role and then he continues to pursue drama and even dramedy because he's killing it in a very captivating way. So, overall, Hustle is an inspiring story focusing on relationships just as much as it is on basketball. Adam Sandler and Juancho Hernangomez are spectacular together with a heartfelt dynamic that put a smile on my face and even a small tear in my eyes. The story isn't necessarily a wholly unique one, and there are some predictable moments, but that doesn't take away from the wonderful emotion that rises up through the narrative. The camera work and the cinematography are exceptional at capturing the excitement of the game while putting us right into the middle without having to get all sweaty and gross. And while the pace does fall off just a bit towards the third act, it picks back up to resolve in an emotionally uplifting and satisfying way. I absolutely loved Adam Sandler in this, and I hope you do too. There's no sex or nudity, but there's a bunch of profanity and not really any violence. I give Hustle 4.5 out of 5 couches. So, what's an inspiring sports movie that you just love to watch? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.